this is Lady Danny from Landed Gentris Handcrafted Herbals, and today I wanted to talk about tincture making. Now, if you have a lot of fresh herbs or if you have a lot of dried herbs that you want to use up before they go off, tincture is a great way to do that. And all you really need is a menstruum, which is generally alcohol and sometimes alcohol and water, and whatever herb you're going to use. Now, because I make mine strong, possibly to use in other things and possibly just to make them strong for a client to use, I only use alcohol. If you make a tincture for people that have issues with alcohol, it's called a glycerite. And what you can do is do the same process, but you use glycerin instead. I will say this about using vegetable glycerin. That makes it good to use for perhaps people that are elderly that may have issues with taking a full strength herb, or children that you want to monitor the amounts for. But the only thing with glycerites is they don't tend to stay as long because they don't have the alcohol that preserves them. So I'm just going to show you a quick and basic way to do a dried herb tincture. I have lots of nettle. I love nettle. I love it as a dried tea. It's not one of those herbs that's bitter or has a horrible taste, so you can certainly drink it as just a hot cup of tea. And right around this time when it's allergy season, it is really beneficial. But one of the things that I like to do is to make a tincture for people that don't have the time to either drink copious amounts of tea or don't want to sit and wait for it to steep the proper amount of time. Now, you may see people that are herbalists that just dump herbs in, they add the alcohol, that's it. But I did want to also tell you that there is a ratio method that you can use. Now with the ratio method, I used to overthink this so much. What I'm going to do is do this as a 1:5 ratio, which means I need 1 part of the herb to 5 parts of my menstruum, which in this case is 80 proof alcohol. No, I don't just have this in my office. This really is for making tincture. So here's what I have done. I have weighed out, and whatever you do, you have to keep the measurements within the same family. For example, if you are measuring grams of herb, then you have to measure milliliters of alcohol. However, if you're measuring ounces of herb, then you need to stick with fluid ounces of alcohol, and that's how you come up with your ratio. Now, I weighed this out, and this is 2 ounces of nettle. The crazy thing is it fits conveniently in, this is a 12-ounce jar, so it fits really well in here. So that means if I'm having 2 ounces, I need 5 times that amount in the alcohol, which would be 10 ounces of alcohol. And judging with displacement, everything will fit in this bottle perfectly. And then I can go knowing safely that I have a 1:5 ratio in this tincture when it's all complete. So it's just a quick way of doing it. All you will need is a small scale to be able to weigh whatever herb you use. And like I said, just be careful that you stay family to family. So if you're measuring your herbs in grams, then you need to have your alcohol in milliliters. If you are measuring your herb in ounces, then you need to have your alcohol, your menstruum in fluid ounces. One last thing about menstruum, and this is an important thing, whenever you're making a tincture, your final fluid tincture needs to be at least 20% alcohol in order for it to have any kind of shelf life. And if you do it right, shelf life is indefinite. What I usually do is give it 6 to 8 weeks, strain out my plant matter, and then what remains will remain good. Pay attention to appearance and aroma to make sure that everything is okay, but generally speaking, they will keep a good long time. So that's all I'm going to do. Having already measured this out, I'm going to put into my 2 ounces of nettle approximately 10 ounces of my, this is 80 proof. And here's what you need to know about alcohol by volume and proof. This is 80 proof vodka. So that means it is 40% alcohol by volume, because the proof is 2 times the alcohol by volume. Okay? Now, if you're using, for certain things I use 100 proof, and that would be 50% alcohol by volume. If you are doing a menstruum that is a mix of half alcohol and half water, that's going to drop your alcohol by volume from 40%, which you would get if you were using 80 proof straight in with your herb, to 20. 20 is the magic number. You don't want to go below that. So once it's finished, I'll just let this sit on a shelf. I prefer 6 to 8 weeks. I know you can do some as low as 3 weeks if that's what you choose, but I want to make sure that I've gotten as much of the active ingredients out of the plant material before I strain it and then put it away. So if that's important to you, then I would err on the side of 6 to 8 weeks. After 8 weeks, I think the breakdown of the plant material tends to be a little too much. So you want to kind of get it out of there. Otherwise, it becomes really mushy and you're going to have residue and things left in it. And it's going to mean an extra step of filtration to get it really clear. So this is just what I would say. That way you get really good active botanicals into your menstruum and you're good to go. So I hope that helps, and just to show you how easy it is to make your own tinctures, because basically all you need is alcohol, your plant material, and time to let it sit. When it is sitting around, I prefer to have them on a shelf where I'm going by frequently, so I can at least give it a good shake once a day to make sure the active materials are out. But I also just wanted to show you that even when you're doing a ratio method, it does not have to be this whole elaborate mathematical calculation to just get a good product. All you need to remember is that your proof, half of that is your ABV. So if you're starting with 100 proof alcohol, it's only 50 ABV, alcohol by volume. And if you add any water to that, if you split that amount, if I had split this 10 ounces of menstruum that I'd added, if it had not just been alcohol, if I had split that with half alcohol and half water, then my ABV is going to drop again. So instead of being 50, it would drop to 25. So that's what you need to know when you're making it. Otherwise, it's just something easy enough that you can do. You can experiment now. And when things are going in spring, you don't have to use dried herbs. You can lightly dry whatever herbs that you're collecting and then make fresh tinctures. But now is the time to do it because, even though it's just the start of spring now, there's always going to be some need for an herbal remedy, whether that is a peach and rose blossom over the summer for people that have an issue with too much heat, whether that's because of menopause or just they don't handle heat really well, or for people that are having right now allergy symptoms and you want a nettle tincture, or even if you're preparing now for things that you'll need later in the year like hyssop or something like that. So just know how easy this is to do and you can start experimenting on your own. Herbal remedies that you do not make yourself, you can always stop by landedgentress.com or visit my Etsy shop, landedgentress.etsy.com. That's it. So just remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, try and be better people, and I hope to see you soon.